I never thought I'd be posting here, but I need to get this off my chest. 6 months ago, my world collapsed when I discovered my wife of 8 years, Amanda, was having an affair with her coworker. Let's call him Derek. The signs had been there for months. Late nights at work, protective behavior with her phone, sudden girls' weekends that I later found out were spent in downtown hotels. But I was blind to it all, working 60-hour weeks trying to secure our financial future. The irony isn't lost on me. It was a Tuesday evening when I found out. I'd come home early from a business trip, wanting to surprise her. Instead, I was the one surprised when I found messages on our shared iPad. Explicit conversations, plans for their next rendezvous, and worse, complaints about our marriage and mockery of my trust. The digital evidence spanned 3 months. I didn't confront her immediately, call it shock or strategic thinking, but I spent the next week gathering information, speaking with a lawyer, and making arrangements. I learned that their affair had been going on for nearly 5 months. 5 months of lies while I was planning our anniversary trip to Greece. When Amanda came home that night, I maintained my composure, kissed her cheek as usual, and asked about her day. She told me about a stressful meeting, a meeting I now knew was actually a 2-hour lunch with Derek. I nodded and smiled, my heart turning to stone with each lie. The following week was excruciating. During the day, I set up a separate bank account, consulted with a divorce attorney, and documented everything. At night, I pretended nothing was wrong. Amanda noticed nothing amiss, too consumed with her affair to see that I was slipping away. Last Friday, I finally decided it was time. I had arranged for a half-day at work and returned home to find Amanda unexpectedly there as well. She stammered something about feeling sick and coming home early. Her phone buzzed repeatedly on the counter. Derek, I presumed, wondering why she wasn't at their usual Friday meeting. We need to talk, I said calmly, placing printouts of their messages on the kitchen island between us. Her face went through a series of emotions, confusion, then shock, followed by panic as she realized what I was showing her. She reached for the papers with trembling hands. Marcus, I can explain. There's nothing to explain, I interrupted, still maintaining my composure. We need to finalize the divorce by Friday. She froze completely, mouth agape. The color drained from her face as she processed my words. Not accusations or anger, but the calm, determined statement of a man who had already made his decision. Divorce? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Marcus, please, it was a mistake. 3 months of daily conversations and hotel meetings isn't a mistake, Amanda. It's a choice you made repeatedly. Her face crumpled as she realized I knew everything, not just fragments that could be explained away with clever lies. The hotel receipts, the text messages, the credit card statements showing gifts purchased for Derek that I'd never seen. I'd been methodical in my investigation, leaving no stone unturned. You don't understand, she pleaded, tears now streaming down her face. Things between us have been so distant. I was lonely, and Derek was just a convenient excuse. I finished for her. I worked those long hours because we agreed on our 5-year plan. The house renovation, the future children's college funds, the early retirement. I shook my head. I wasn't building a future for myself, Amanda. I was building it for us. She sank into a chair, mascara tracking black lines down her cheeks. For a brief moment, seeing her broken like this almost weakened my resolve. 8 years of marriage creates deep bonds, even when betrayed. Can we please talk about this? She begged. We could try counseling. I'll quit my job. I'll do anything. I'd anticipated this reaction. The lawyer had warned me that once confronted, most cheating spouses pivot immediately to salvage mode. Not out of love, he'd explained cynically, but out of fear of consequences. I've already retained a lawyer, I told her. I'm offering a clean break. Equal division of assets, no alimony either way. I've drawn up a preliminary agreement. I slid a folder toward her that contained the divorce papers my attorney had prepared. Her phone buzzed again. Derek's name flashed on the screen, followed by a message preview. Where are you? I've been waiting. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. As she lunged to silence the phone, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. You should answer that, I said. He's probably worried. Marcus, please. It's over with him. I ended it last week. Another lie. I had phone records showing their 2-hour conversation just yesterday. That's strange, I replied, pulling out another sheet of paper. Because according to your phone records, you spoke with him for nearly 2 hours yesterday afternoon. She flinched as if I'd physically struck her. The realization that I had been meticulously building my case while maintaining a facade of ignorance was dawning on her. How long have you known? She whispered. Long enough to make peace with it, I answered honestly. Long enough to know this marriage is beyond saving. Our conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. My brother Jake, right on schedule. I'd asked him to come by to help me move some of my things. I had already secured an apartment downtown, furnished it minimally, and was ready to begin my new life. That's Jake, I explained, standing up. I'm going to be staying with him for a while. You've planned everything, she said, her voice hollow with defeat. You weren't even going to give us a chance to fix this. I paused at that, considering my response carefully. Amanda, a marriage isn't broken by discovery. It's broken by betrayal. Jake helped me load the essentials into his truck, clothes, personal items, and a few sentimental possessions. Amanda watched from the doorway, alternating between tearful pleas and angry accusations. The neighbors pretended not to notice, but I caught Mrs. Peterson peeking through her curtains across the street. You're making a mistake, Amanda called out as I carried the last box. We can work through this. Everyone deserves a second chance. Jake tensed beside me, always the protective older brother. He knew everything, had been my sounding board through the entire ordeal. Need me to say something? He muttered. I shook my head. I've got this. Walking back to Amanda, I kept my voice low but firm. Second chances are for mistakes, not calculated deceptions. You didn't slip up once in a moment of weakness. You built an entire parallel life. It wasn't like that, she protested. 3 months of messages suggest otherwise, I replied. The things you said about me, about our marriage, those weren't the words of someone who made a mistake. Those were the words of someone who thought they'd never get caught. She had no response to that. The truth often leaves little room for argument. That night at Jake's place, my phone exploded with messages from Amanda, alternating between remorse and blame. I read them all but responded to none. By morning, her tone had shifted to panic as the reality of our separation settled in. The following days passed in a blur of legal meetings and procedural steps. Our divorce was uncontested. Amanda eventually signed the papers without a fight. Perhaps she realized the futility of it all, or perhaps Derek had comforted her with promises of a new beginning. I didn't care to find out. Word spread quickly among our friends. Some took sides, others maintained diplomatic neutrality. Her parents called once, expressing their disappointment. In her, not me. That conversation was brief and painful. Friday arrived faster than expected. I met Amanda at the lawyer's office, both of us flanked by our respective attorneys. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by the consequences of her actions. For a moment, as we signed the final papers, our eyes met across the table. I really did love you, she said softly. I know, I replied. That's what makes it worse. Outside, as we prepared to go our separate ways, she asked the question I'd been expecting. Will you ever forgive me? I considered this carefully. Forgiveness isn't about erasing what happened. It's about not letting it poison your future. So yes, eventually, I'll forgive you, for my sake, not yours. 6 months have passed since that day. I've rebuilt my life piece by piece, a new apartment, new routines, even a few tentative dates. I heard through mutual friends that Amanda and Derek's relationship imploded just weeks after our divorce was finalized. She called once, drunk and regretful. I didn't answer. Some days I still wake up reaching for someone who isn't there. But those moments grow rarer. The betrayal will always be part of my story, but it's no longer the chapter I'm living in.